Good evening, everyone. Mike Palmer from Know Your Rights Group and Success Coaching International with another very important live video update tonight. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've no doubt heard that Dictator Dan has now decided that it is absolutely mandatory for everybody in Melbourne to be wearing a mask as of Thursday. Now, if you're listening in from one of the other states, he also said this: we are going to be wearing masks in Victoria, potentially in other parts of the country as well, for a very long time. So even though it might not affect you right now, I guarantee you it almost certainly will. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, we did a previous video just a couple of weeks or so back entitled, Should You Wear a Mask? Okay, go and look it up on YouTube. You'll find it on our YouTube channel, and it covers some really important questions that you should be asking yourself given this latest directive. Okay, now remember, I'm not here to tell you anything. I'm just here to throw out some questions and get you guys thinking. Now, speaking of questions, I did have another question that came to mind, and it reminded me of yet another movie. I know I like to throw in my movie references, okay, but this one reminded me of A Few Good Men. Now, I'm sure you remember the movie, and I'm sure you remember the line, "You can't handle the truth." Okay, but where did that come from? Okay, remember, okay, he was asking the colonel on the stand, but if you gave a direction for your staff, I don't remember the exact quote, for yours, for the officers not to touch Santiago, there should have been no reason to have him removed from the base, should there? Your troops always follow your orders, do they not? And of course, it backed him into a corner that he couldn't get out of. So this is the same question. Dictator Dan, if you make these directives and they are lawful directives as you claim, and people must stay home, especially if they are sick, then why the need for masks? We already know, there's no doubt, okay, there's all talk on Facebook and all this, but there's no doubt. There's no confusion. We all agree, I think, okay, that the masks are not going to stop you from getting or catching the virus. Okay, they can only stop someone who has it from transmitting the virus through a cough or a sneeze. So if those people who are sick are staying home, if all the big notices on the front of all the shops that say "do not enter," if you are feeling unwell, if you have a fever, if people are obeying those directives, then why the need for masks? It just doesn't add up. So, I've also spoken about the huge financial ramifications of all of these lockdown laws. All right. We've also spoken about the exponentially increasing number of suicides that nobody wants to talk about. All we want, the media just wants to, but look at these, 400 cases, look at these 300 cases, look at these 108 deaths that we've had in the country. But no one wants to talk about the hundreds and hundreds of suicides that these lockdowns have caused. No one wants to talk about that. So let's talk about some other stuff that no one seems to want to talk about. Okay, let's talk about the ramifications of everyday people wearing masks. Okay, now I've explained this on a previous video. Okay, I get asthma. I've had asthma all my life. Now I couldn't possibly wear a mask all day. I couldn't breathe. I would assume, I'm only guessing of course, but I would assume that other people with other various lung conditions would also have significant issues trying to breathe with a mask or some other kind of, face covering on. Okay, so, is this potentially causing greater issues for people who have other underlying health issues? Now, it's also a well-known medical fact, and I'm not here to give any medical advice, so please, again, go and confirm and verify this for yourselves. Okay, but wearing a mask, again, or any type of face covering, okay, builds up moisture as you're breathing in and out, and that attracts the bacteria to that moisture, which you're then breathing in. See, it would seem to me, from the research that I've done, that wearing a mask is actually going to potentially create more health concerns than it's ever going to possibly save. Now, I've also seen reports, and again, look this up for yourself, okay, that that not only does it attract all the bacteria, but it also traps in the CO2. So you're breathing in more CO2. Now, we all know that breathing in CO2 is not good for you. Now, some people want to say, oh, but it's only a little bit. Okay, it's only a tiny bit of CO2 you're breathing in. Okay, but there's only a tiny chance of you catching this COVID-19 as well. So if it's good for the goose, it's got to be good for the gander, yeah? Okay, it's got to apply to both scenarios. You can't just have it one way and not the other. All right. Now, I've seen all of the Facebook memes and all of the pictures there where they have, one person sneezing or coughing, and then they have one person with a mask and two people with a mask. Now, absolutely, 100% I agree, okay, that wearing a mask, even one of those ridiculous cloth masks, will absolutely, to some degree, help stop the spread or the effect of a sneeze or a cough. No question about it, no doubt about it. But the virus particles are still going to pass through a cloth mask. The manufacturers tell you that the mask is not fine enough to stop virus particles. So whilst it might stop the sneeze or the cough from going a certain distance, it's not going to stop the virus particles. And it's certainly not going to stop you from breathing in those virus particles. Okay? So again, a mask cannot possibly help you if you are healthy. And if you are not healthy, if you have the virus, if you have a cold, if you have a flu, if you've got any of these symptoms, absolutely do the responsible thing and stay home. Why would you want to risk infecting anybody with anything, even if it was, just a plain old average everyday cold? Just be considerate of your fellow man and women. We're not sexist here. Okay? Just remember as well, though, 99% of people will never get this virus. They will never get this virus. And 99% of the 1% who do will fully recover. Okay? Will fully recover. So why are we saying that masks are now mandatory for 100% of the population? That just doesn't make sense. Okay? Remember, we're a country with 25 million people. We've only had just over 100 deaths, 108 or 109, whatever it's up to now. And again, with all due respect to those families, as I say on every video, okay, most of those people that have died have been either extremely old or have had other underlying medical issues, or in many cases, both. Okay? Now, this thing is even worse than any of that, because if anyone should be wearing a mask, okay, it's those who are at more risk, which is, of course, the elderly and those with underlying health conditions, because that, of course, is what the media tells us. They're the ones that most risk of dying from this. But here's the problem. Those that are elderly or have other underlying health conditions are probably going to be more severely affected by wearing a mask than any other group of people out there. Okay? It just doesn't add up. Maybe the government wants to cause the elderly and those with medical conditions more harm. I don't know. What else makes sense to you? Because it just doesn't make sense to me. Now then, of course, we've got all the keyboard warriors out there on Facebook, and they're declaring, but it's just a mask, Mike. It's just a mask. Why not put it on? Because it's not going to stop you from catching anything. So why bother? And it is going to potentially cause a number of other health issues. Now, if I use that same logic and I just said to everybody watching this, come on guys, it's only $10. Just send me $10. Who's going to do it just because I said so? Anyone who wants to, there's a PayPal donate button on the Know Your Rights Group website. Feel free. Okay, but of course most of you aren't going to. So why would you wear a mask just because it's just a mask? Okay, remember that's what the government told you about the COVID Safe app. Oh, it's just an app. Just download it on your phone. What's the problem? The problem is that it was a monumental cock-up, okay, yet another one by our government that did absolutely nothing to help reduce the spread of COVID-19 in any way, shape or form. Okay? Why? Why after all these monumental cock-ups? And let's not forget the biggest of them all, which is the whole hotel quarantine cock-up, which is the whole reason that we're dealing with all this stuff in Melbourne. Okay, let's not forget about that. So why on earth, given all the track record that our government has done, why would you trust them again? Okay, look at how many of the government databases have been hacked, how much data has been accessed. Okay? And then they try and tell you, oh, it's just a mask, it's just an app. What's next? Oh, it's just a vaccine. It hasn't been really tested and trialled over any number of years, but just give it a go. It's just a vaccine, you'll be right. Oh, it's just a microchip in your arm. It's just. Okay, I did a video on Thursday night. It was a little bit unique. It was a little bit different. It seemed to have been well received. It was called, Where Do You Draw Your Line? I urge you, if you haven't seen that video, please go to our YouTube channel and look it up. Where do you draw your line? It's just this, it's just that, it's just where do you draw your line? Now, if you're like most people today and you draw your line, okay, at being forced to wear a mask like a slave out in public, then now is the time, okay, to do something about it. Now is the time to take action. You need to grab this book, The Essential Step-by-Step Manual for Understanding and Exercising Your Rights. You need to go to chapter 9, which is all about mandatory vaccinations. Okay, we explain about the mandatory vaccination laws, why they're not valid, why they're not lawful, and most importantly in here, we've got a My Will letter. An expression of your will is the highest expression that you can make at law. So what you need to do is you need to get your head around the information in this chapter. You need to access that My Will letter, and you need to adapt it and amend it and edit it to suit these mandatory mask directives. That is what is going to be so, so powerful. You need to send it to the Victorian Chief Medical Officer. You need to send it to Daniel Andrews. You need to send it to your local MP. And you need to express your will to them very clearly. Okay? Now, you're not forcing your will on anyone. You're not forcing anyone to do anything. You're just simply saying, wherever the word must appears, you just want it changed to may or should. Give people the opportunity, give people the option to do what they feel is right for them. Okay? For those brainwashed sheep out there that want to go around and continue wearing masks because they genuinely believe it's good for them and healthy for them, let them do it. No problem at all. But for those informed, educated people who've done the research, okay, for those people that know that wearing a mask is not going to help them or their family in any way, shape or form, give them the opportunity to decide for themselves whether they should or shouldn't be wearing a mask when they've done the research and they can compare it to their own medical situation. Get rid of this mandatory everyone must wear a mask because we say so insanity. Okay, that is absolutely crazy. But here's the thing, people. We've got 3 days. 3 days, that's it. These directives come into effect as of midnight on Wednesday. We need to take action now. Now, if you want to go above and beyond that, okay, you might want to ask, in that same My Will letter, you might want to ask a few of these questions. Scribble these down or feel free to go back through this video and listen to them. Okay? You can ask Daniel Andrews. You can ask the Victorian Medical Officer. You can ask your MP. Are you prepared, without knowing my personal medical situation, to force me to wear a mask and guarantee that it will be 100% safe for me? Are you going to compensate me for the time, cost and hassle of going to my local GP to get a medical exemption from your mandatory mask directives? Can you provide a copy of the instruments of delegation that authorise a non-medically trained police officer to issue a fine for a breach of a health directive when neither the person making the directive nor the police officer unlawfully enforcing that directive has any personal knowledge of my specific medical condition? Can you provide a copy of the lawful enactment of any mandatory requirement to wear a mask that has passed all 3 readings from the Victorian Parliament? On what basis are you introducing mandatory mask wearing contrary to the advice from the Commonwealth Department of Health? Yes, you heard that correctly, people. This is from the Commonwealth Department of Health. You can go and download this letter, and I recommend that you do. It says, information on the use of surgical masks. Should I wear a surgical mask? It says, surgical masks in the community are only helpful in preventing people who have coronavirus disease from spreading it to others. If you are well, you do not need to wear a surgical mask, as there is little evidence supporting the widespread use of surgical masks in healthy people to prevent transmission in public. That is the Federal Department of Health. So what the hell is Daniel Andrews doing, making directives that are contrary to the Federal Department of Health? Okay, please go back, rewind, re-listen to this video as many times as you need to get those questions down, okay, and put them in these letters and send them off. Guys, girls, whoever's watching, listening, I can't do all this for you. Okay, I've done what I can. I've drafted the My Will letter. It's been put together in lawful terms that have meaning at law. You need to get that My Will letter, and then you need to edit it and amend it to suit your situation. Throw in some of those questions that I just went through as well. Send them off. Bombard them with these letters. We've got 3 days to stop this insanity before it comes in. Okay, because a lot of people are out there going, oh, but Mike, it's just a mask. You know, it's not a big deal. It is a huge deal, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because here's the thing: if everyone just rolls over and just puts the mask on and says, oh well, then they will know they can get away with anything. They can do whatever the hell they like, and we're just going to comply. Now, conversely, okay, if everyone just walks around and doesn't put on their mask and everything, they'll go, right, this is the reason that we now need to go to stage 4 lockdown. Okay? So if we play their game their way, either way we lose. We need to play the game our way on our terms, okay, by writing those My Will letters. Okay? That's the key. They have the power. All right? Now, the other thing that I need to sort of get across to people is, if for whatever reason we can't get this stopped in time, if they bring this in, if not enough people take action, okay, and people start going out and say, well, look, I've drawn the line, I'm not wearing a mask, that's just insane, and they start getting fines, okay, there are things you can do. People have been emailing me about this all day, okay, grab the Aussie Speeding Fines book, okay, yes, it's generally tailored to unjust and unlawful traffic fines, but it can be amended and edited to suit any type of unjust or unlawful fine whatsoever. Okay, so grab that Aussie Speeding Fines book. In the off chance that you do get one of these fines, you can use that tried, tested, proven 3-step process to successfully challenge that fine. And in fact, you know what? It'd probably be great if a whole bunch of people went out without their mask, got a whole bunch of these fines, and then just elected to have every single one of them heard in court. Because we would clog up the entire court system, and that would be another way of bringing down the system, you know, with people power, if they don't agree to withdraw these directives before they bring them in. Now, here's one of the challenges though, okay? They are scared. They know that they are completely outnumbered. There's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them. Okay, there's even a hell of a lot more of us than there are of their policy enforcers. Okay, and that's another video for another day that I'm working on at the moment. But what they're doing, they're very smart. Okay, they might be horrible people, but they are smart. And what they're doing now is they are enlisting the business owners to help them enforce their directives. Because what they're going to do is they're going to send these big notices out to businesses. You must not allow anyone in your store without a mask. And the business owners are going to be, oh, but I'm going to get a fine, and I must, obey these, directives. And so they'll have big signs saying, but you can't come in. We won't serve you. We won't deal with you if you're not wearing a mask. So they are going to employ or engage, not employ, because that would insinuate they're getting paid for it. They're going to engage business owners to enforce their directives for them. Okay, and that's another way they're getting around this. So if you are a business owner, okay, don't buy into this rubbish. Don't buy into these fines. There's ways to challenge those fines if you get one. Now, if worse comes to worse, you say, no, that's just all too hard, I don't want to do it, then close down. Okay, shut down your business rather than, encouraging this ridiculous mask wearing. Send invoices to the government for any and all losses that you incur because of these insane directives. Just tell them, look, people won't come into my shop because I'm forcing them to wear a mask, so I'm forced to shut down. I'm invoicing you for this stuff. We've covered this on previous radio shows. You absolutely can do this. Okay, and if you're struggling financially, if you're a business owner or anyone else who's struggling financially as a result of these lockdowns and ridiculous laws, grab this Bank Secrets book. Okay, it's got all the step-by-step strategies for challenging your unsecured loans and dealing with any debt collectors and all the rest of it if you're at that point where you really are struggling financially. Now, just quickly on that point, we've been bombarded with messages, Facebook messages, all the rest of it, emails. People saying, I want all 3 books, I just want to get them in one place. Now, we are all separate groups, but we have done a deal, and we do now have all 3 books available in one place. Okay, there's a link to it in the description on this video. Otherwise, if you go to the Know Your Rights Group website, go to the Our ebook page, you'll find a link there. There's also a really good video there which explains exactly what information is covered in each book, so you know exactly what you're getting. But if you want to get a little bit of a discount, get all 3 at once, that is available for people because they have been asking for that. All right, look, I've got a bunch of notes here. I don't want to let this drag on for too long, but please, remember, we do have really just 3 days. That is our best time to act, is in the next 3 days. Bombard Premier Daniel Andrews, bombard the Chief Medical Officer, bombard your local MPs with those My Will letters and get them to either withdraw those mandatory mask directives or get them at least to change the wording to its people should wear a mask, not that they must, because that is what will make the difference. Okay, now I'm going to leave you with one final thought before I go. And this is a great little post that was put on Facebook and is doing the rounds. And it says quite simply, and again, I don't know the answer, maybe you do. If COVID is so deadly, why hasn't it killed all the homeless? They live outside, no social distancing, no mask, and they can't even wash their hands. Seems strange, doesn't it? Something doesn't seem to add up. Anyway, food for thought. Please go and watch those other videos. Where do you draw your line? And the other video, should you wear a mask? Get your head around those before deciding what to do. Once you've decided, once you know where you stand, once you've drawn your line, as always, get informed, get fired up, and get proactive. We will speak to you all on Tuesday night via our radio show. Don't forget to tune in at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Just click on the radio show tab on our website. And until then, have a great night.